Hello everyone. So filming your own hunts has become very popular over the years. It's something I just got into myself just a couple years ago. In the first year of doing it, I really didn't invest much money in it. I had a camcorder, so I decided just to make a makeshift small arm to attach to my stands where I could record my hunts as I went along. One of the things that I realized with what I had, with what I was using, was it wasn't necessarily versatile to some of the stands that I hunted out of. If you've seen my other video on my trapdoor stand, you may notice that I incorporated a nice comfortable seat and a nice open platform for that, and that tends to keep you about 12-18 inches away from a tree. So a typical tree-mounted camera arm didn't really function well with that stand. And with what I was using was attached to the front corner of the stand, and that only kept it about 12 to 18 inches above the standing part of my stand. So in order to make any adjustments on the camera or to pan and move the camera, you would have to lean over to it and then stand back up again. And that's something that just wasn't going to work out for deer hunting. That's why in the video where I tagged that one doe, the camera is panned at a very wide angle, waiting for the deer to come into view, and then I took the shot. I didn't want to risk zooming in and moving the camera along and having the deer spot me up in my tree. So in the off season, I decided to think about how can I have a camera arm that fits my stands, not just my trapdoor one, but also my tripod, which tends to not be right up against the tree, and then still have ease of use, ease of functions with it, and still keep it out of the way while I'm hunting. So with that, here's the design I came up with. As you can see, nothing too flashy, and it's relatively cheap. I probably spent less than $25 on making this. One of the nice things about keeping it cheap is I wanted to be able to leave the camera arm out in my stand between my hunts and even over the week while I'm not out there hunting, and not really have to worry about somebody running off with it. If it's cheap, it's not a big deal to have to replace it should somebody take it, and if it's not too flashy, everybody's just going to pretty much ignore it anyway. So some of the design features that it's incorporated in is, of course, you can see the main arm here that it rests on is quite tall. This puts the body of the camera about mid-thigh. So what I liked about this is the camera is close enough to where you can still reach it, not having to bend over, while also still being out of your way shooting with a bow. You always have to remember your bow hangs down a little bit and you don't want it bumping into anything. I incorporated a long control arm for maneuvering the camera. The camera sits here on this white piece. This long control arm maneuvers the camera, and I have this other segment that attaches to the top of the base. This allows the camera to be further out in front of me while I'm maneuvering and controlling this. I wanted to do this so I'm able to still see the camera in my field of view without having to actually look down at it. I could see what's in the camera's field of view and also maneuver it and make sure it's recording and different things like that without having being right next to me. This also, once again, sets it forward and keeps it out of the way of a bow or a gun if you're shooting with that. Okay, so I'll go through and show you some of the pieces that I made to assemble this and just what is entailed in the design. Most of it's just nuts and bolts that hold it together. I'm going to pull this one out, and I'll show you the bushings that I made and the different styles. So I fortunately have access to a machine shop, so it was quite easy to make these on my own. We had some 1-inch Teflon stock, rod stock. And what I did was, first I drilled a hole down the middle to fit a 1/4-inch bolt, so it would slide through easily. And then I tapered down these outside edges here, making this a little narrower to fit around the bolt, while also leaving essentially a bushing here on the outside. And this is where the two pieces of the metal come together. This one's actually the top outside. that fits on like so. This way you can squeeze everything together with the nuts and the bolts, and because Teflon has that slipperiness to it, it's not going to bind up, squeak, or vibrate as you move things, but you can have a lot of tension on it so your arm just doesn't fall around and just isn't flimsy. This one goes between the two pieces. As you can see, I left a collar on both sides. This one goes here, and this one merely slides into it like that. You can kind of see how it passes through, and then these two pieces then just simply turn on each other like so. This is the main beam here that it stands on. I welded just a small 4-inch piece of the 1-inch aluminum on top. It's all aluminum, so it's very light. This probably barely weighs a pound here. Welded this to the top. I cut 1/2-inch holes into the middle of it to fit my bushing pieces. And as you can see, that also, those pieces keep the metal bolt from rubbing against the metal of the aluminum as well. So one of the toughest things I ran into was making a place for the camcorder to sit on. I ran into the fact of I had to have this raised up so this piece of angle aluminum, which allows the swiveling to occur, didn't bump into the camera and interfere with the camera. This, I made bushings just the same as I just showed you that fit in place of these. I kept them short and just a wing nut there, so even in the stand I can tighten it or loosen it. There's a screw that's held on by a nut and spring on the inside, and that pops up, so at the base of your camcorder or camera that you're going to use, that you can simply attach right there and attach to the top. So this, for the arm, this is actually just a piece of nylon rod, 1-inch diameter, and I had shaved it down as a square to fit inside the square of aluminum. It's actually just press fit in there. It doesn't even reach this bolt here. There's no nut or bolt to put it on there. I press fit it in and never could get it back out, so there it stays. All right, so I'm out here sitting in the top portion of my tripod. This is one of API's tripod, a 16-foot one. Of course, it's not set up 16 feet in the air because I'm trying to film this off my tripod over there. So anyway, this is the gun rail that surrounds it, and I've attached the camera arm to the pole that supports the gun rail here on it. As I showed you when I designed this, I wanted it to kind of stick out a little bit so there was nothing blocking as I moved my gun or bow in this area. I didn't want to be bumping into things, catching on things. So that works out really well. The long handle gives you the ability to move the arm over 180 degrees or wherever you needed this to point. You could even use it at an angle like this. So it's very versatile. It's worked out very well this year, and pennies really just to put it together. So something else that I also built for this year's hunt, just in a previous video I talked about the Sony action camera that I added to capturing kind of more of that third-person perspective of me during my hunts. This is the arm here that I made for it. Here's a little pouch that I put the external battery in. Cord reaches around, attaches to the back of it. You may be looking at this and saying that the camera is upside down. One of the features on this is a flip setting, so you can actually hang the camera invertedly and all your recordings will still be reversed since the camera essentially is upside down. That's a nice feature because when I'm sitting in my stands and using it this year, there's the one-touch record button where you only have to reach up, push the button once, and it starts recording. Turns the camera on and starts recording, and that's all you have to do. So this was a good angle for that to be at. This is fairly long, as you can see, and there's a bending arm to it. My intentions with that is once I upgrade my camcorder to where I can sync these, I'll be able to stretch this out to a wider field of view while I'm hunting, so you get a bigger field of view of me and what I'm doing, and I won't have to reach out to turn the camera on. I can just hit record on my camcorder and it'll automatically turn that on for me. As you can see, it's attached behind the tree. Once again, that was designed in there. This way, none of this is anywhere near if I'm having to take a bow shot in that direction and I set up there. This all stays out of the way. Once again, I probably spent maybe $10 on that. I leave it up in the tree. I just take my camera off when I leave. If somebody takes it, the ratchet strap holding it is probably worth more than the camera arm itself. So one of the things I didn't show you about the camera arm for my little action camera was how it attached to the base of the tree. This is merely just a 1/2-inch piece of acrylic, and I have 2 bolts that attach the aluminum square to the acrylic. I left them long so you can hook on each end a ratchet strap and then just go around the tree. I also put in 4 bolts just in a square pattern with the thread sticking out here, and that goes up against the tree, and those bolts stick into the tree a little bit and keep it from rocking or sliding while the camera is up there. So there you have it. There's what some of the things I did for this season, a little DIY items. You can build your own camera arms. I'm fortunate to have access to a machine shop which allowed me to do a lot of that, but if you look around for, you know, nylon washings, different things like that, you could pretty much do the same thing just with a hand drill. Go to your local aluminum or metal source and you can pick up scrap aluminum just like I did. Thanks for watching. Hope you got some ideas from this. We'll see you next time.